Hello everyone and good evening. Welcome to today's webinar brought to you by Binghamton University and Shiksha.com. The topic for today's webinar is Scope of MS Programs offered by Binghamton University, USA. Before starting up with the presentation, I would like to introduce our panelists for today. Our first panelist is Ms. Margaret Wolford. She's the Director of Recruitment and Admissions Team for the Thomas J. Watson School of Engineering and Applied Science at the university. Our second panelist is Mr. Andrew. He's the graduate recruiter at the university and also an alumni of the university. I would now request Margaret to please initiate the session.
All right, thank you guys so much for joining us this evening. It is the morning here in New York, a beautiful morning here in New York, and so we really appreciate you taking the time to meet with us and hear a little bit about the graduate programs in engineering and applied science at Binghamton University. So we'll start with, there is a map there of Binghamton University, well, of where Binghamton is as a city. A lot of people hear Binghamton University, State University of New York, and they assume that we're in Manhattan. I know I am not originally from New York and also had sort of assumed this, but actually you can see we're a full 3 hours from New York. It's a very beautiful area. There's a few slides a little later where you can see some images of campus and the area. It's very green, it's very open. But the other thing that we really like to show on this map is the number of industrial hubs that are just a very short distance from the university. Of course, New York City, as was mentioned, but also Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Boston, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Syracuse, Corning. If you're looking at visiting Canada, there's also Montreal, Toronto, and Niagara Falls in just a few hours' drive. So these can be a big help to you when you're looking for jobs and internships, of course, but also just give you a good experience when you do come to the United States as places to visit. Maybe you have family in some of these areas, and so they're very accessible. So on the next slide, there's a bit of information about us. So Binghamton is the birthplace of IBM, a company, of course, we've all heard of. It actually started just across the river in a town called Endicott, New York. And we are one of the safest mid-sized universities as well. I know that for myself, when I moved to Binghamton, that was something that my father was very excited about, to know that it was a safe area. And additionally, the cost of living here is quite low, about 12% below the national average. I would just like to take just a second to confirm, Lakshmi, I know Andrew and I cannot see the slides, but can everybody else see the slides?
Students, are you able to see the slides?
I am not able to see them, but I happen to have the PowerPoint up on a different monitor. Oh, there we are.
I can see it now.
You can see now?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, and then we'll just move to the next slide. In the last year or so, we've been in the news quite a bit as a university because one of our faculty members actually won a Nobel Prize. This is Professor Stanley Whittingham. He won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2019, and he actually started our material science and engineering program here at Binghamton. He won the Nobel Prize for his work on the lithium-ion battery, and so we really like to make sure we mention this, of course, because we're very proud of him, and we like to talk about the rigor of research happening at Binghamton, but also to sort of emphasize that a lot of the research that is happening is related to sustainability, clean energy, things like that. So we just like to make sure we take a moment to talk about this. On the next slide, there's also a bit of information about us as a university. So you're going to see some of our rankings as we go through all of this, but when we talk about the value of a degree from Binghamton University, a big part of what we talk about is that it's a very high quality education. So you can see a few of the rankings there. for just, being top ranked by US News and World Report and the New York Times, while also being very affordable. So I talked about the cost of living a moment ago, but also it's a very low tuition because we are a public university. And so a lot of our very high rankings come from looking at sort of the combination of those things. So high quality of education, which leads to better jobs when you graduate, better internship opportunities when you're a student, and then paired with low tuition, you're able to get a very strong return on investment, which is something that we talk about a lot here. If you go to the next slide, we're just going to give you guys a bit of information about our campus and our community. So we are a very international community. In the Watson School alone, we have students from more than 50 countries. For the whole campus, we have students from over 120 countries. And that really adds a lot as well to the education that you're receiving, because every different perspective that's represented adds something new to your classroom experience, to the projects that you're working on. And so you're able to get this very diverse education, as well as carrying that experience into the US workforce, which is, of course, a very diverse area. On the next slide, there's a bit of an overview of our university itself. So our total enrollment for this last year was just below 18,000. We have over 1,800 employers who come to our campus every year to recruit our students. These are for jobs, internships, different opportunities to work in laboratories, things like that. We have 35 research centers and institutes just for Binghamton University. Some of these are collaborative with other campuses, such as Cornell or SUNY Albany, things like that. But many of these are just housed on our campus. We have a lot of really incredible research institutes, many of which are also paired with industry. So I know there's an area in Endicott, New York, where we have many faculty who go there, and they do work on flexible electronics. And so they're tied very closely together with companies that are working on those projects as well. We do have over 90 graduate programs that you can choose from, a little bit over 60 master's programs, over 30 PhD programs. So there's a lot for you to choose from in a number of different areas. So I hope that you'll consider those. Another statistic that we tend to mention a lot is a 92% freshman retention rate. This is very big for undergraduate students, but we think, again, it just speaks to the caliber of the experience that students are having at Binghamton, in that once they come, they're staying. I know there are some campuses that have really high incoming numbers for students, but then students will transfer out or go somewhere else. At Binghamton, our students come, they stay, and they complete the programs, and they're very successful when they leave. And our final thing that I like to mention on this slide is that when you're looking at all of the public universities in New York, so the other SUNY schools, Buffalo, Stony Brook, Albany, there's also a number of other public institutions here in New York. We are #1. And so when you're looking at US News and World Report, we are the top ranked public college, public university in New York. And it's something that we're really proud of. And so we want to make sure we mention that as well. Moving on to the next slide. Just a few more sort of overview pieces of Binghamton. There are 6 schools from which you can select programs. There's the Harper College of Arts and Sciences, which has everything from biology to anthropology to the fine arts. There's also our School of Management. So if anyone's looking at accounting or a Master's of Business Administration, that would be housed there. Our School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences, which currently is only offering a PharmD program. So it's very selective and very particular. But they're looking to expand to master's programs as well in the coming years. Our College of Community and Public Affairs, this would be where you would select programs such as social work or education. The Decker School of Nursing, which is pretty self-explanatory, and then the Thomas J. Watson School of Engineering and Applied Science. So I am housed in the Thomas J. Watson School of Engineering and Applied Science. We're going to be talking about some of our specific programs in a moment, but Andrew, who's also joined for this session, represents all of these programs. He's in our Office of Graduate Recruitment. And so if you have some questions outside of engineering and applied science in particular, he's a great resource to talk to about those. And then if you're just curious about if we have a program, you can ask that question as well, and we can certainly give you an answer on that. Okay, so moving on to the next slide, there is a bit of information about some statistics about the university. So I talked a moment ago about how we have almost 18,000 students. Of those, 14,000 are undergraduate students, and just under 4,000 are graduate students. You can see here we have a very large, international student population, over 2,000 on the campus total. I already talked about the number of graduate programs that we have. And we're also very proud of the fact that we have been growing as a university. So our number of faculty has gone up 20% since 2012, which is extremely impressive, for everything that's been going on in the country and in the world. We've been growing our faculty to now over 1,100 total across campus. And these are able to bring in new research areas and new grants and new research centers and things like that. So as we grow our faculty, we're also growing the knowledge base that the university holds. And on the next slide, there's some specific information about the School of Engineering and Applied Science. So for us, we actually have the largest graduate population on campus. We have over 1,200 graduate students. Of those, about 70% are international students. So it's a very large population for us. U.S. News and World Report has us ranked in the top 100 graduate programs in the United States. And I would just point out that, we talked about how the campus-wide faculty has grown by 20%. In the School of Engineering and Applied Science, we've increased by 80%, nearly doubled since 2012. Every year we've added new faculty, including this year. Even with everything that's been going on with COVID, we do have new faculty that are joining in the fall. And so just in the School of Engineering and Applied Science, we now have over 120 faculty members. And that just brings all of the benefits I mentioned a moment ago about expanding the research areas and also classroom opportunities. So if we did not previously have a faculty member who taught courses in, for example, a very specific area of artificial intelligence and facial recognition, we are able to hire faculty in that area, and then they're able to bring that expertise and create a class on it as well. So moving on to the next slide. This is where we're going to talk about an overview of the graduate programs available in the School of Engineering and Applied Science. So for us, we have master's and PhD programs in biomedical engineering, computer science, electrical and computer engineering, material science and engineering, which is a transdisciplinary program taught with faculty in physics and chemistry, as well as our mechanical engineering department. We have masters and PhDs in mechanical engineering. We have a new one-year Master of Science in Data Analytics program. This is also transdisciplinary, largely with our School of Management, but also with our Department of Economics. And then our Department of System Science and Industrial Engineering actually houses multiple programs. So a Master's in Healthcare Systems Engineering, Master's and PhDs in Industrial and Systems Engineering, and Master's and PhDs in System Science. I will also just very briefly mention that we do have certificate programs as well in cybersecurity and complex systems science and engineering. I want to make sure I mention these. You all can't see this, but above my desk, I also have a graduate certificate. What this really allows you to do is to get your master's degree and then get something extra out of it. So if you wanted to, for example, do a Master of Science in Computer Science and also a graduate certificate in cybersecurity, you can still do that in the 2-year master framework. It doesn't take extra time. It just sort of designates what electives you're taking. And so you're able to really get a very specified area of focus and get this additional credential out of it. So it's a really nice opportunity. There are tons of certificate programs across campus, but these are the 2 that are housed in the School of Engineering and Applied Science. So moving to the next slide. We want to talk a little bit about some of the resources that are available to you as students. So whether you are applying or you've already been admitted, these are resources that are available to you to help with the transition to Binghamton. So first, I want to talk about International Student and Scholar Services, ISSS. They do so much for our international students. They have an orientation when you first arrive in the US and on campus. They do a lot of information sessions giving you guidance on academic success. They talk a lot about the difference in the education system in America versus India. You know, how we talk about a course being an individual class, where students in India think of a course as being an entire course program. They are continually giving students advising about their immigration. So this would be, and sort of tying into that next point about CPT and OPT, if you're wanting to go visit Canada, you would want to go talk to ISSS. They're going to make sure that you have all of your paperwork in order, and that your visa allows you to do that, that you have everything sort of squared away with the Canadian government, things like that. When you're applying for CPT and OPT, ISSS will help you through that process. They give you all kinds of guidance, and they also help you through the application. And I should just mention that if you're doing OPT, so let's say you graduate from Binghamton, you go into a job, things are going great, and then some other company invites you to come to their office at, say, a higher pay. So you've been headhunted, is what we would say. ISSS can help you with transferring over the OPT even though you've graduated. So this is a resource that is available to you even after you've graduated, even after you've left campus. The ISSS office will advise you on this. And basically their job is to ensure that you're staying in good status, that you're not doing anything to endanger your visa status or to break those terms. And so they are an excellent, excellent resource. And finally, they do also facilitate the international student health insurance and related support. So if you get sick, or if you, you know, fall off your bike and hurt your wrist, you know, they can help you to facilitate whether it's going to the on-campus student health services, or if you're needing to go off campus, they ensure that you are covered for this, because as we all know, the healthcare system in the United States can be quite expensive. And so they're helping to facilitate the insurance so that it's minimizing any out-of-pocket costs related to those needs. And on the next slide, there is some information specifically about our Indian graduate student organization. So we have a number of international student organizations across campus, but I really like to talk about the IGSO because they're one of the groups that we work with the most closely. They are just incredible students, and I think my favorite thing about this is that they don't have a faculty advisor. They do this entirely because their seniors helped them, and so they want to help those who are coming behind them as well. You can see a few of the things that they do here on this slide. Of course, they do the big Indian festivals, so Diwali, Holi. They also help with the transition from India to Binghamton University. So if you're looking for a roommate or you're looking for housing, they have a survey that they send out to sort of help to pair people. So you might be able to say, like, I'm a female in Chennai. I want to live only with other females. I don't drink or smoke, and so I want a place that's going to be quiet and good for, you know, working. And I get up early. And they can sort of help you based on all these questions that you've answered to find roommates that may be a good fit for you. They'll help connect you on WhatsApp. And so then you can, in theory, have all of your roommates selected even before you come to Binghamton. They also, as is mentioned there in the next point, they initially provide accommodation until you find a home. So there are a lot of students who think, oh, I must sign a lease while I'm still in India before I come to Binghamton, but that's not necessarily the case. IGSO students will let you stay with them for, I believe it's up to 2 weeks when you first arrive, so that you can get over your jet lag, go look at different apartment options, and then make a selection about what's really going to be best for you in person rather than just looking at pictures online. They also are so wonderful at answering questions. I know last summer, my student assistant, Pooja, was working in the office, and her phone was dinging constantly because she was in all of these WhatsApp groups with the IGSO trying to answer questions about the visa procedures, housing, part-time jobs, you know, what courses to take, who were good professors, all of this. And so it's very, very comprehensive, the information that they will provide. But I think I also appreciate that if there's a question they can't answer, they know who to put you in touch with, whether it's an office or a particular faculty member or staff member, things like that. Their contact information is at the bottom of this slide. They are on Facebook, they're on Instagram, and they also do have their own email address. And so I would really encourage you, if you have any questions, they are an excellent resource available to you as well. So moving on to the next slide. Another unique opportunity about Binghamton University is the Fleishman Center and Watson Career and Alumni Connections. So many universities in the United States will have a university-wide career service office, but one thing that's unique about Binghamton is that we have a dedicated office just for engineering and computer science as well. And these offices are going to help you with preparing for interviews. They're going to help you get your resume brought over to a US format and ensure it's, clean and professional. They do all kinds of professional development workshops. They do a lot of mock interviews. They do events all the time. I think that this semester, transitioning because of COVID and everything else, this was one office I was especially impressed by because they moved over to Zoom networking events almost immediately, allowing students to still meet with alumni and potential companies that were looking to hire students and ask their questions and get connected. And so I thought that was a really incredible opportunity. They do also help to organize 2 large job and internship fairs each year. One is in September, one is in February. But they also bring employers to campus through the year. Before COVID happened in February, we had Google on our campus for an entire week, and they would do information sessions in the evening, and they did interviews all during the day from 8 a.m. to I think it was 6 p.m. every day. And so there are these great opportunities to get connected to companies and potential employers through them. And they also do some training specifically for international students. So they'll talk about the differences in the hiring process in the United States versus, India or China or Brazil or wherever our students are coming from. And they also do a lot of, American business etiquette courses and some workshops and things like that. So these are incredible resources because we know that if you're coming to the United States to get a graduate degree, you want to make sure that you're able to secure a job when it's over. Again, that return on investment. And so having these offices is a great resource for you. So moving to the next slide. I just wanted to highlight very quickly, these are a few of our students who secured internships last summer. So you can see we have students from all different backgrounds, and they are all over the place. So we've got actually 2 students who got internships at NASA, which was way cool. It's very hard to tell on some of them, like the gentleman who's holding up his coffee mug, but we had a couple of computer science students who were able to get jobs down on Wall Street last summer for internships. We've had students who, move across the country and do internships with Apple over in California. And so there are these incredible opportunities for internships. And you would do CPT for that while here at Binghamton. So moving to the next slide. I think we talk about our alumni next. Yes. So I just wanted to highlight 2 alumni. This is Plash Sachdeva. He's originally from Delhi and is now working at Geico. When he was at Binghamton, he was the president, not just of the Indian Graduate Student Organization, but the campus-wide graduate student organization. So he knew the president and provost, who are the 2 main leaders on our campus. Is just an incredible young man, had a really good experience here, and I think does a good job here of just sort of talking about the inviting nature of Binghamton and the administration here at the university. And then moving to the next slide, there's just one other alum I wanted to highlight. She is actually from our Industrial and Systems Engineering program. So if we can get that next slide to come up. Maybe, yeah, there we go. Aishwarya, who's originally from Pune, actually. And so she's an industrial and systems engineer who got a job at Apple. And I think this is really great because a lot of times it's our computer science students who are thinking about going to a place like Apple or Microsoft or whatever. but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done for their operations and their supply chain management and things like that. And so Aishwarya was able to get this great opportunity, having done an internship there the summer before, and also shares here just talking about, again, helpful alumni, the resources on campus, things like that. Part of the reason I wanted to make sure I mentioned these alumni is that you were able to see where they're at, IFL and GEICO. And one of the things that we do is if you're wanting to target a particular company, or if you secure an internship somewhere, we can put you in touch with alumni who are already there. And then that way they're able to sort of help you with the transition, whether to the geographic area or to the culture of the company. And so they can be an excellent resource for you as well. So we're nearly done. Moving to the next slide, I think we have a bit of information about the funding opportunities. So I don't know if any of these have already been coming in on the chat, but I wanted to try to sort of preempt to some of the funding questions. So I'm sure you guys have heard about teaching assistantships. These are usually, at least in the School of Engineering, given to PhD students because it's a very relevant experience for them, as many of them will be becoming faculty after they graduate. There are also graduate assistantships, which tend to be more like administrative positions. Maybe you're working the front desk of an office, or in my case, we have a graduate assistant who helps us with organizing some of our webinars and also helps us maintain our WhatsApp presence. So within the School of Engineering and Applied Science, there's about 100 to 120 of those positions. And then you've also probably heard of research assistantships or research project assistantships. These are where you're working with a particular faculty member, maybe on a particular project in a particular lab. And so it's all about knowing the faculty member and having a relationship with them. For those, there's about 125 to 150 in the School of Engineering and Applied Science. And so I would strongly recommend, if that's the opportunity that you're looking for, you want to be in touch with faculty in advance. A couple of unique opportunities would be SPUR, which is our Strategic Resurgence Office. They actually work directly with faculty, with industry in the area. And basically they do full year internships. So you're doing a graduate assistantship in that your tuition is being covered, you're getting a stipend to live on, but instead of working for a research lab on campus, you're working for an industrial partner. So for all of those opportunities, teaching assistantships, graduate assistantships, research assistantships, and the SPUR office, all of those would come with a complete tuition scholarship, as well as a stipend to cover your living expenses. So as you can imagine, these are incredibly competitive. And I mentioned many of the teaching assistantships will go to PhD students. Graduate assistantships, oftentimes you are applying as if it is a job. Research project assistantships, you need to be tied in with the faculty member. And then those SPUR opportunities are also typically posted online and you apply just like any other job. But in addition, we also have on-campus jobs. And I will just mention, especially in this time of COVID, many of these positions actually moved online for the spring semester. And so a lot of them who have been posting job opportunities on the website again this year have been saying on there whether it's going to be allowed to be done online or if it would require an in-person component. So just something to be mindful of. But each year, each semester, there's about 850 openings because across campus, there's over 2,000 of these on-campus job positions. And that can be everything from working at the coffee shop on campus to working the front desk of the library and helping check in books, to, you know, maybe working for one of the departments to help them with a particular project. You know, we had a student last year who was hired to help digitize a lot of records, things like that. So those are sort of what the opportunities are. And then moving to the next slide, we'll talk about how you apply for those. So when you're looking at scholarships within the department, there's no separate application. Everybody who's applied to Binghamton University is considered for these. And basically they're based on departmental recommendations. So they are merit-based. They're gonna look at your test scores. They're gonna look at your essays, things like that. So if you do apply to Binghamton, you will probably hear about something called, for example, the Dean Scholarship. This is $5,000 per academic year. And there are a lot of students that are like, oh, where do I apply for that? Well, you don't. You're recommended by the department. So as I said, many of these opportunities, whether they're assistantships or scholarships, there's no separate application. You are recommended by the department. The only ones that you would apply for separately would be the graduate assistantships that are more like office position, and then also the spur opportunities. These are all listed on our website and you can check them out. And of course, we're more than happy to answer questions as well. So almost done. Moving to the next slide. I think we're going to talk a little bit about the cost. Yes. So I will just note these are the annual tuition and fees for international students for 2019-2020. The 2020-2021 numbers should be coming out in July. This is always how it is. This isn't being delayed because of COVID or something else. This is just our annual process. So just wanted to go through with each of you. The tuition and fees, it's about $25,000 US for the academic year, for the full year. There's also your health insurance, which is $1,500. It's a flat rate. And then there's some information there about the living cost. So we surveyed our current students and asked them how much they're paying for rent, food, going to the cinema, just like their general living expenses. And so you can see there, as I mentioned, Binghamton is a very low cost of living here. And so it's about $6,600 to $9,600. Part of that depends on how many roommates you have, things like that. Excuse me. So the total expenses would be between about $33,500 and $36,500 for the year. As a note, your second year tends to be a bit cheaper because you're not paying as much in tuition and fees, but you have to be a full-time student your first year. That's why we can sort of say, oh, it's going to be this amount. Some other costs just to be mindful of would be going through your visa process, so paying for your SEVIS record and then the actual visa. Of course, books, laboratory fees, supplies, and of course, your airfare and any other transportation costs. One thing I'll note on transportation costs, many of our students get around via a bus system that runs through the city, and it is free to students with your university ID. So you don't have to worry about getting here and immediately finding a car or any of that stuff. If you want to, of course, that's up to you, but it just makes things a little bit easier for getting around. So then moving to the next slide, I think this is, our COVID-19 challenges and updates. So this is our last bit of sort of formal information. And so before I go through it, I just wanted to reiterate that if you want to send questions via the chat or be thinking about your questions, we'll be addressing those in just a minute. I wanted to let you know that as of right now, June 22nd, there has not been a final decision made yet regarding fall 2020. Last week on June 15th, we received a draft plan, but this has not been approved by the SUNY leadership, our statewide leadership. We're hoping that will happen within the next week or two, and hopefully we will have a final decision on record by July 1st. But this is the plan. As of today, the fall semester is planned to start as regularly scheduled, August 26th. There are hybrid options for many, but not all of the courses. In the School of Engineering and Applied Science, we've made sure that at least all the courses you would need to take as a first-year student are going to be available online. Other schools, other programs are still sort of finalizing what they're going to do. So if you have questions about those specifically, just let us know. And I just wanted to make sure I mentioned, I don't know if anyone on this call has already been admitted for fall of 2020, but if you have, deferment is an option for you. If you want to defer your application to spring 2021 or even fall 2021, that's perfectly fine. We can help you with that process. You are guaranteed admission. This is not you sort of going back through the admission process. And if you do that, if you've already paid your admission deposit, it will go with you, things like that. Just wanted to make sure I mentioned as well, we've had a lot of students that have asked about, GRE waivers, TOEFL waivers, things like that. But many of our departments are still requiring these exams because so many of them are offering at-home testing options. So there's the GRE, GMAT if you're looking at the School of Business. TOEFL is also doing online, and it's not listed on this slide, but we're also adding Duolingo as an option for the English proficiency requirement, at least for fall 2020. We're not sure about moving forward, but this is something else that would be an option for you for getting that requirement covered. We are very aware that during the lockdown, you're probably going a bit stir crazy and looking for some opportunities to better your application or maybe get some more information. And so I just wanted to make sure I mentioned here, there's a lot of online trainings and courses that you can take through YouTube or through different university websites. You know, this could be a great time, especially if you're looking at spring or fall 2021, to really sort of prepare yourself for the GRE. There's tons of online resources for preparing for that exam. And then finally, I just wanted to mention that if classes do go online for fall 2020, or if you choose to take courses online, or if you defer to spring 2021, you will still be eligible for CPT, but it's going to be delayed. So if you come in fall 2020 physically to campus, you're able to do CPT, a summer internship, in summer 2021. However, if you push your arrival and you don't come to campus until January, then you're not going to be able to do CPT until you've completed 2 semesters of study on campus. So that would be winter 2021, so after the fall semester has ended. So again, you are still eligible for this, but it's a bit delayed, and there are, just to be sincere, less opportunities in the winter term than there are during the summer, which is when many American companies are sort of set up to do these internships. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. There's a link there on the slide that is to our COVID-19 update webpage. You can go there to get the most up-to-date information. There's a frequently asked questions tab. So there's a lot of information there. So that's it for our formal presentation. If we go to the next slide, you can see there's a lot of different ways that you can connect with us: Facebook, LinkedIn, WeChat, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, WhatsApp. And so if you're looking to connect with Binghamton University or the School of Engineering and Applied Science in a different way, all of these would be available to you. And then going to the next slide, I just wanted to make sure you had all of our contact information. So my information is here, as is Andrew's. We've also added the contact information for our colleague Karen, who's out of the office today but is available if you have questions. You can see we have WhatsApp numbers listed here as well. So if you want to reach out there with questions, that's perfectly acceptable. And so with that, again, I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to participate today. And what questions can we answer?
Thank you so much, Andrew and Margaret, for taking out time and sharing this useful information with the students. So as a lot of questions have already been answered by Andrew. Thank you, Andrew. Students, we are still there to take up questions. If you have any live question you want to talk, if you want to ask those questions directly to the panelists, please click on raise hand tab. I will unmute you and you can ask those questions to the panelists. So I have Sai Charan here. Sai, I am unmuting you. You can ask your question to the panelists directly.
Hello.
Hi, yes.
Hello. Yeah, ma'am, are you offering civil engineering courses there in your university?
Sai, your voice is very low.
He asked about civil engineering. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the School of Engineering and Applied Science at Binghamton doesn't have a civil engineering program. Many of the students end up going into material science and engineering, as this has a lot of sort of the tied in things with sustainability and things like that. It kind of depends on what you're wanting to do in civil engineering. Again, if it's a more sustainability focus, there would still be a fit for you at Binghamton. But if you're more interested in maybe doing different things with like architecture or urban design or things like that, then it really might be better to look at a different university, some other programs. There's certainly no shortage of civil engineering programs in the United States. We've talked about starting a civil engineering program, but if we did, this wouldn't be up and running until at least 2022. So there's quite a bit of time to get that started.
Okay, ma'am. You're saying that there will be no courses for civil engineering like geotechnical engineering, construction management, transportation
Correct.
engineering.
That's correct. That would not be available at Binghamton University at this time.
Will it be possible in 2021?
Probably not 2021, possibly 2022.
Okay, thank you.
You're most welcome.
Thank you so much, Sai. Okay, so next is Tanmay. Tanmay, I am unmuting you.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, ma'am, I had a doubt regarding electrical and computer engineering in your university. So, what all courses and credits do you provide in your university for ECE?
No problem. If you give me just one moment, I'm just going to bring up, they have some specific areas of focus. So I just want to make sure that I get all of those. I know a lot of the faculty that I work with do things related to, cybersecurity, and a lot of things with, what am I trying to say here? Like forensics. They do a lot of things with different forensic imaging. So, oh gosh.
Okay, so
Sorry.
yeah, is there are programs for computer vision, right? Like AI and machine learning.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a little bit more of AI and machine learning in computer science, but in electrical engineering, there's
Okay.
still faculty that are working in those areas. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, that's it.
You're welcome. And
Thank
then
you so much, Tanmay.
Thank you.
Okay, so next is from Neeraj. Neeraj, I'm unmuting you. Neeraj, I think you are self-muted. You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, ma'am, can I hear you? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
The thing, yeah, I'm planning for the admission in 2021 for the course called Global Management. For that, ma'am, I'm inquiring about the GMAT and IELTS score required to get an admission.
Okay. So as that is in the School of Management, I'm going to ask Andrew if he can confirm the GMAT and IELTS requirement for the Masters of Business.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I actually just got that pulled up here. So for School of Management, we offer graduate degrees in MBA and MS in accounting. They are looking for a GMAT of 600 or GRE of 312. The university does not necessarily operate from the perspective of low point cutoffs, but that is a really good place to be. Of course, a GPA of a 3.0, preferably a 3.3, and then an IELTS score of 7 or a TOEFL of 96. So those are your numbers for school management program. And then, of course, you can go right on to the school management graduate degree webpage as well to examine the remaining admissions requirements.
Yeah. And another thing I want to ask that is there any scholarship opportunity for the international students on the
Sure.
on the basis of their ranking? Yeah.
So sure. So for the school management programs, there likely will not be as many like graduate assistant and research assistantship opportunities as the engineering school, just because there's not as much like research centers and that sort of thing. I would just encourage you to go on to our, if you Google Binghamton costs and funding, that's a really great breakdown of all the different potential like funding opportunities and loan opportunities. And then of course, work with our financial aid office. So we love to work with our financial aid office. That's another great resource, and you can meet with people and you can sit down with them to get great information that you need about funding and navigating through that funding process. Those are some great resources.
And I'll just add one thing to that, which is I talked about those administrative graduate assistantships where you're sort of working in an office and it's more like a staff position. Those are open to all students. And so many of them are listed on the graduate school's website, the same page actually that Andrew was talking about. If you go to the cost and funding tab, There's an assistantship, fellowships, and I think scholarships page that you can click on as well. And so there you can see any of those opportunities that are still posted. I know, for example, the graduate school itself has hired a few graduate assistants to help them with just sort of answering student emails and trying to get more information. International Student Scholar Services hires students to sort of be country liaisons every year. And this is actually how I paid for graduate school. I worked in my university's graduate school as a graduate assistant. And especially if you're looking at a school of management degree, you probably have a bit of, you're going to do some professional development. You may already have some work experience. And so that would definitely be a benefit to you if you're looking at those opportunities as well.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for the
You're
information.
welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Neeraj. Okay, the next is Anand. Anand, you can ask your question. Anand, you have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
What is the average CGPA for the courses? Are there any average CGPA for the courses? That is one. Second is, are there any oil and gas related courses available?
Okay. So the CGPA, you probably heard Andrew say a minute ago, the 3.0. So at Binghamton University, if you're coming from another university in the United States, we would require a 3.0 out of 4.0. However,
Okay.
I know I've been to India several times. Andrew's actually gone earlier this year. We're very aware that international transcripts can be quite different. You guys might be on a 10 scale. The way that things are weighted can be very different. And so I would say not to worry too much about the CGPA. You can send your transcripts to the department for review, just to see, they're going to look more at how you've done in key courses related to the degree you're looking at, as opposed to just like the overall CGPA. Excuse me, because they want to make sure that you're going to be successful in that particular degree program. They don't necessarily care if you didn't do as well in, say, like a history course or something else that was a little bit more of like a general education sort of thing. And then you asked if there was anything specifically related to oil and gas. I know there's a couple of faculty in mechanical engineering that have some projects related to oil and gas, and they're working with companies that are in oil and gas, like Exxon and things like that.
Okay.
But I am not aware off the top of my head of any particular, like it's not a full area of focus. So if you're wanting to do a degree in what is essentially petroleum engineering, for example, or like nuclear engineering, like this may not be a good fit. But if you're just wanting to work with a couple of faculty in that area, maybe get a few courses in this specific area, then that would certainly be available.
Okay. And mechanical courses are also like rigorously admissions are taken for the mechanical.
Yeah. So I guess to sort of do a brief overview on this, for the School of Engineering and Applied Science, really all of our programs would require a GRE overall of around 300 and a quantitative of around 155. The only exceptions to that being biomedical engineering is a bit more flexible, and computer science can offer a GRE waiver for students with 1 year of work experience. And so if you're looking at electrical, mechanical, material science, industrial engineering, all of those are going to require the GRE. No exceptions, really.
Thank
and
you.
then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, sure, you can go ahead, please.
Oh, okay. I was just going to mention as well the English proficiency requirement. So this is the same for all of the engineering and applied science programs. It's either a TOEFL of 80 or an IELTS of 6.5 with no band below 5, or PTE of 53, or Duolingo of 105. So any of those are acceptable. There's no preference for one over another. But so they're going to, you were talking about the rigor of the admission process. They're gonna, like, the English proficiency is kind of a check mark. Like, do you have the requirement? That's all they need.
Okay.
But when you're looking at the GRE and the GPA, if you have, for example, like a slightly low GPA, you're gonna need a higher GRE to offset it, and vice versa. if you don't have a very strong GRE, but you have a strong CGPA, it can still allow you to secure admission.
Fine, fine. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
Thank you so much, Anand. Next we have Jaykrit. Jaykrit, you can ask your question.
Yeah. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, is there anything related to geology in your university, like earth
There
sciences and all?
definitely is. So I'm going to let Andrew talk about that. But the reason I sort of laughed at that is Karen, who I mentioned, whose information is on this slide. Her husband is actually in the geology program at Binghamton. So yeah, we definitely have that available. I'm going to let him pull that up and make sure we can get you some information on it.
Sure.
Okay.
So we do have. Oops, sorry, I just heard a little feedback myself. We do have an MS in PhD in Geological Sciences. As part of our Harper College of Arts and Sciences, there's a great webpage for it. Looks like the requirements are pretty standard for Binghamton University graduate programs, a 3.0 GPA, a personal statement, GRE scores, 2 letters of recommendation. So that's it's a great program that we do offer within our Harper College
And
of Arts and Sciences.
and what about the placements regarding geology?
Do you happen to know the outcomes?
Well, we don't have specific outcomes broken down for that program, but that is one of those Harper programs that is very much geared toward careers, right? So geological sciences, there's a lot of work with like geospatial engineering. There's a lot of work with environmental visualization, and a lot of people can go on and work in perhaps such fields as the oil and gas industry or environmental consulting, sustainability research. So while I don't have like a data point up in front of me, that program is one of those programs in our arts and sciences that's known to really have a robust series of pathways into a lot of very practical careers.
Yeah, I would say if you go to the graduate school's website, they have a really good section on their geological sciences page where they talk about internships, research opportunities, and more. And then also about opportunities for students after they graduate. So just reading a piece of that real quick, it says, while some remain in academia as researchers or faculty, most program alumni find work in industry as geologists in federal programs such as NASA, the Sandia National Laboratories, and the U.S. Geological Survey. They've also received positions in private energy, environment, and mining companies such as ConocoPhillips and Secor International. They work in locations all over the globe, including England, Taiwan, and the Philippines.
All right. Thank you, both of you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Jaykrit. Okay, so next we have from Rohan. Rohan, you can ask your question. Rohan?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Like, I wanted to know, are there any master programs related to robotics?
Ooh, robotics, yes. So a couple of options. If you're wanting to actually, build the robot, like the frame of a robot, like our mechanical engineering does a lot of stuff with robotics. They do different like design competitions and things like that. If you're wanting to make the robot smarter, we also have a lot of robotics, artificial intelligence, and machine learning in computer science.
Okay.
Also in our industrial and systems engineering program, there's a number of people who work on basically how to make robotics more efficient, especially when it comes to supply chain management and different things related to like industrial effectiveness. We have one faculty member, for example, his name is Chris Green, who has a cobot on campus. So it's this giant robot humanoid looking thing that can help to dispense pharmaceuticals. And they're trying to figure out how to make these machines work more efficiently so that they can basically be in a distribution factory with people. And they can take on a lot of the stuff about the job that would be very physical and it becomes very taxing on a human body, but then you still have a person there, like a human person there to be like a quality check. So there are a few opportunities.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Rohan. Okay, next we have from Cyril. Cyril, you can ask your question.
Schedule arbal. Volume naga tasappa.
Cyril, can you speak in English?
Alex, volume paper na Alex. Wala.
Okay. Okay. We'll take up the next question. That is from Meenal. Meenal, you can ask your question.
Yeah, hi. I am looking for fall 2021 for data analytics in your university. So I just wanted to understand about the duration and what will be the period of the OCT period after that that I will receive, because I think it's a 10-month program if I'm correct.
You are correct, and I'm very glad you've already done a bit of research on it. So basically, you would start the program if you're looking at 2021 in August. You would take courses through the fall term like normal. I believe there's a winter component as well. You're doing a sort of like a project over the winter term, spring semester, and then the first summer session. So you're actually graduating at the end of June, beginning of July. So it is a 10-month program. As you probably just heard me saying, like there's not really any breaks. Like you don't get the summer break, you don't get the winter break, because you're sort of dedicated to this program. I should note, and you may have seen this on the website, that 2020 is our first cohort of this particular program. So it is very new, but I know they're really excited to get it started. And then you were asking about as well, Andrew, can you provide a little bit of information about, I know their requirements are a little bit more strict because they are in that school of business. So we want to make sure that we share that.
Sure. So the requirements for like the GMATs and the GRE are going to be similar. Like we mentioned, GMAT 600, GRE 312. Similar, of course, for the IELTS and the TOEFL as well. IELTS 7, TOEFL 96, and then the program is structured in a way where it's pretty rigorous and it's pretty accelerated, and so they generally do students to have few years of full-time work experience in an analytics-related area. Again, the way we operate, it's a holistic review, so none of these requirements should shy you away from applying. You definitely want to always apply, but that is definitely a particular program that does value work experience perhaps a bit more than other programs do.
Mm-hmm. And then to answer your question about OPT, so it is a STEM certified course, which means you have 3 years of OPT after you graduate. So even though it's only a 10-month program, you would then have 3 full years to work in the United States after you graduate. One thing about the program, though, it's kind of like a unique thing about it is that since it is only a 10-month program, you may not have as much time to be applying for jobs while you're in the program. So you might need to take a month or two after graduation to apply. But then on the plus side of it, you've been working with industry partners. So your resume is going to be amazing. You're already going to have some very solid work experience, sort of working with these industry partners in the United States. And so I know this is a question that I've heard the program director address quite a lot. And he is very, very assured that students, when they graduate, are going to have strong job prospects right from the time that they graduate. And then they can do the full 3 years working in the United States.
Okay, so you're saying that I will gain some work experience during the course as well, right?
Yes,
Okay.
A lot of the projects are supposed to be designed to work with an industry partner.
Okay, okay, sure. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Meenal. Okay, we have 2 more students coming in. I'll start with Abdullah. You can ask your question.
Question. Do you work for a course related to textile engineering?
Sorry, could you say that again?
Do you offer a course related to textile engineering?
So I heard, do we offer a course related to, and then I couldn't hear what the word was, engineering. What's that area of engineering again?
Engineering. Textile engineering. Textile engineering.
Textile engineering.
Yeah.
Lakshmi, can you say it again, please?
Yeah, he's asking for if you offer course related to textile engineering.
Oh, textile. Sorry, I don't know why I was having some trouble making that a word. Not specifically, no. There's a little bit again with like supply chain management and different things with operations that you could do in industrial engineering, but no, we don't have a course specifically related to textiles.
Abdullah, did you get your answer?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Do you have any further question?
No.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Sorry, Abdullah. Good luck.
Okay, next is, okay, we have few questions from the students which they have posted, but because I saw that you both were answering live questions, so I thought of taking these questions.
Okay.
And I'll read out these questions for you. So there's a question from Ayushman. He's asking, what about the courses that need ground practices? How about those courses will be taught in the university? Or is there any plan that the university planning to start online sessions for the programs?
It's a great question. So I know we talked very briefly about our COVID-19 update, and I just want to reiterate, this is our draft plan. We hope to have the finalized plan by July 1st. But basically, in the School of Engineering, at least, the way it's going to work is that if you can come to campus, excellent. They're going to be doing in-person classes, all of that, but we understand a lot of students aren't going to be able to secure visas in time. And so we are offering the first semester of courses online. So that would be like the required core courses, a selection of elective courses as well. For other programs, once you're looking outside engineering and applied science, I know everybody's planning on having an in-person component, but so far as what courses are going to be available online or via a hybrid model, you're going to want to reach out to the department or the Office of Graduate Recruitment to be connected to them, so they can tell you to sort of what's going to be available for the fall semester.
Okay. Okay, so I'll take up the last question then.
Okay.
So this question is from Akriti. She's asking for the management courses, for the masters in management courses, do the student needs to have a work experience?
Well, the one that we mentioned for data analytics is a particular program that would require work experience. We definitely do look at resumes and CVs, and they definitely are added credentials and components to your experience. But generally, they're not required for a lot of our master's programs. Like let Maggie add anything she wants as well.
Yeah, so it can definitely be something that helps your application, but if you don't have work experience, it's not like you're automatically going to be denied or something like that. As Andrew said, it's not required.
Okay, so she's further asking for the management courses in case, you know, in case the GMAT score is let, will the work experience be counted for the admission process?
It can help to counterbalance it. I would say if you're not sure, like if you've taken the GMAT and your score is too low, I would just recommend getting in touch with the department ahead of time. Again, like Andrew, or someone else can help to facilitate that introduction. But it's good to just sort of connect with them because they can tell you, oh yeah, like because you have this really strong work experience that could offset this score, or they'll be able to tell you if you do need to retake the exam, or maybe if you need to work for another year. Since they're the ones who are processing the admissions, they're really the best ones to look at your profile and give advice from there.
Okay. Okay, I'm loaded with another two questions. This is from Archana. She is asking, is there any master program for biomedical engineering? And if yes, what is the requirement for GRE or IELTS score?
Okay, so yes, there is a master's and PhD in biomedical engineering. I just think they're incredibly cool. Like all of their projects are amazing. So with regards to English proficiency, the IELTS would be a 6.5, no band below 5. But then, unlike most of our other programs, biomedical engineering doesn't have a hard GRE cutoff. They do still require it if at all possible. I know they've made a few exceptions this year because of COVID and some of the restrictions around at-home testing. But for the most part, you know, they'd like to see an overall score around 300, but I would say of all of our programs in engineering and applied science, they are the most flexible with regard to the GRE. A big part of that is that we have some students who come in who are pure biology background. They haven't done a math course since secondary school. And then we have people who are pure engineers who haven't done a biology course maybe ever. And so the first semester is about getting everybody on the same page, giving you access to all that information. And then from there, you're able to go into all of these different areas. Biomedical engineering is a very small program. In that I think their total number of faculty right now is like 12, but they account for a huge amount of our research expenditures because every faculty member is super involved in research, whether they're doing things with tissue engineering, with stem cells, doing different things related to, you know, infectious disease or biomaterials and things like that. So yeah, biomedical engineering is amazing.
Okay, so I'll take up the last question. This is from Sharanya. She's asking, what are the aspects of doing higher studies in biotechnology, and is it possible to get scholarship for this particular course?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you're wanting to do things in biotechnology, biomedical engineering is probably the best fit. And part of the reason I would recommend that is because even if there's a course outside of biomedical engineering that is of particular interest, maybe there's something going on in mechanical engineering or even the Department of Biology, you're still able to take those courses even while you're studying the biomedical engineering program. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of that question, Lakshmi?
If there are chances of getting scholarship for this particular course.
Thank you. Didn't know if it was scholarships or requirements. Thanks. So with regard to scholarships, biomedical engineering, as I said, has a huge number of research expenditures. They do have a very large number of students who are research assistants. So I would encourage you to connect with faculty, see if they have openings in their labs. But then aside from that, you know, the other scholarship opportunities are the same they are in all of our other departments. But there's the Dean Scholarship that I mentioned earlier, for which there's no application, you're just recommended by the department. And then there are also all of those on-campus jobs. So a lot of our students will get a scholarship that helps to cover a bit of their tuition, so the Dean Scholarship or something else, and then they do an on-campus part-time job to cover their living expenses, you know, rent and food and things like that. And your chances for those are very good. Like I said, there's over 2,000 positions on campus, and many of those can be done online for those of you who are looking at doing remote.
Okay, so with this, we come to the end of the session. Thank you so much, Margaret.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having us.
Thank you, it was our pleasure.
It was a really engaging session. Students, I hope that you have got answers to your questions. Otherwise, you have the contact details of the university. You can get in touch with them and they will be able to help you with your admissions and application process. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a nice day.
All right, thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone. Great day, great night.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much, students. Bye-bye.
Bye.